Hey VC, how's it going? Right, okay, another Lost in the Grooves video. Just an excuse for me to show 3 records which I think may have been overlooked, deserve a little bit more attention, or records that contain hidden gems and that sort of thing. So just an excuse for me to show some more records basically, right? But all of these 3 records I'm going to show today, they're all linked. They're all by female artists and they're all recorded by the same production team of Jerry Wexler, Arif Mardin and Tom Dowd. Right, so see what you think. So starting off with this is Cher with 3614 Jackson Highway, recorded at Muscle Shoals, that great studio, and perhaps was one of the first records to be recorded there. I think Muscle Shoals opened up in the very late 60s. This was recorded in 69, so I think it puts it as one of the first records. But right, so Cher, I've always liked her voice. I think she's got a real warmth to her voice, a real nice sounding voice. I just don't always get on with the material that she records. That said, you know, she's obviously had a 60-year career or something, so you know, I'm sure she's not going to be too worried about what I say about her. But actually saying that, I think she's actually had one of the biggest selling singles in UK history. I think Believe, that came out in the late 90s, wasn't it? You know, that tune with the auto-tune vocal on it. I think it's like in the top, certainly in the top 10, maybe the top 5 biggest selling singles of all time in the UK. But this for me is the album to go to. As I say, because it's recorded in Muscle Shoals with the Swampers, it's got that southern funk, that southern soul sound to it. Lots of country thrown in there as well. So it includes tracks such as For What It's Worth by the Buffalo Springfield. There's a few Dylan tracks on here, such as Lay Lady Lay, which is retitled as Lay Baby Lay. I Threw It All Away. Yeah, so it's sort of contemporary tunes of the day. But the song that I'm going to do an eel drop on is her version of Dr. John's I Walk on Gilded Splinters. A song that I first heard done by Paul Weller on the Stanley Road album. Great version. I think that Cher's is the best version of that song though. She was probably the first person to cover it, I'd say. But it's also been done by the likes of Marsha Hunt. She had a hit with it in the early 70s. But see what you think. This has got a real laid back, dirty groove to it. Yeah. Lovely stuff.
Some people think they drive me, but I know they must be crazy. They can't see that misfortune, or else they're just too lazy. Just sweet up ground zombie with my yellow chicken choice on. No tomcat, I'm gonna fill my guts with poison. I walk through the fire and I fly through the smoke. I wanna see my enemies all the end of my road. I walk on pins and needles and I see what they can do. Walk on gilded splinters with the king of the zoo. Sing, God,
Right, and so just going to follow that with a record that came out the following year, also recorded at Muscle Shoals. This is Lulu with New Roots. And you know, looking back now, Lulu was clearly a perfect choice to record with the Swampers at Muscle Shoals. She always had a lot of grit to her vocal, you know, she had a real rasp to her voice, and her voice really suits this style of music. The track that I'm going to feature is a track called Feeling Alright, originally done by Dave Mason, written by Dave Mason. But again, I first heard it done by Paul Weller as a B-side, I think, on Above the Clouds in the early 90s. But Lulu's is the best version. This is full-on funk. Joe Cocker actually did a great version with a similar feel to this, but it doesn't quite match Lulu's version. The album is worth checking out. All of it is good. It opens with 2 tracks by the Bee Gees, the first of which, Marley Pert Drive, originally featured on their Odessa album. Now the Bee Gees version of it is far more country. What happens with this version is that they add horns to it, and the horn sound is very New Orleans. It's got a real Dixieland vibe to it, and it works perfectly. But as I say, the version of Feeling Alright is what I'm going to play, so see what you think of that.
Oh!
everybody knows this album. Dusty in Memphis by Dusty Springfield. A perfect album, a 10 out of 10 album, one of the greatest albums of all time, certainly the greatest blue-eyed soul album of all time. You know, I think it's fair to say that every record collection should include this record. That's the American sleeve. Over here in the UK, we know it better with this sleeve. And when I first heard that album, it was on CD in the late 90s. Now, the thing about the CD version, it includes all 10 tracks on the original release, but it includes 3 extra tracks. The first of which is Dusty's version of Willie and Laura Mae Jones, the old Tony Joe White track. Now, obviously recorded at the same time. Now, famously, she recorded with the Swampers in Muscle Shoals. For whatever reason, she lost her confidence and she actually ended up recording her vocals in New York. So it does have that Muscle Shoals link, albeit the album wasn't completed there. But I really like this version of Willie and Laura Mae Jones. And when I was younger, when I first heard this CD, I couldn't work out why that track hadn't been included in the official album. You know, there's a few ballads on here, which, as I say, as a young man, I didn't quite get. As I've got older, I've learned to appreciate them more and just, you know, understand the brilliance of Dusty's voice on those tracks now. But when I was younger, I wanted something more fun, you know, something funkier, which is what Laura Mae Jones does, you know. So it was included on the album. It did come out as a single. Certainly in the States, it came out as a single, and in Europe, this is a Spanish copy. So if you know the album, but you haven't heard this track, check it out on YouTube. I do a brief need a drop now, but I think you can get the 45 pretty cheaply. So there you go. So right, there's 3 albums, perhaps tracks on those albums or associated with those albums that are a little bit overlooked. So yeah, cheers.
Willie and Laura Mae Jones, well, neighbors a long time back. They live right down the road from us in a shack just like our shack. The people put the land together and we learn to count on each other. When you live off the land, you don't have the time to think about another man's color. The cotton was high and the corn was growing fine. Well, there was another place and another time. Sit out on the front porch in the evening when the sun went down. Willie was playing, the kids were singing, everybody would mess around.